John was exhausted. Every morning before the sun rose, he dragged himself out of bed, dressed in the same worn-out clothes, and walked to work. Every evening, he returned home long after the sun had set, too tired to do anything but eat a cheap meal and collapse onto his bed. His job was dull, repetitive, and uninspiring. His boss treated him like a machine, never acknowledging his hard work, only pointing out his mistakes. And his paycheck? It barely covered rent and food. Life felt like a never-ending cycle of struggle. John often wondered how some people lived in luxury while others, like him, worked tirelessly just to survive. The rich had everything handed to them, while the poor were trapped in a system designed to keep them down. It wasn't fair. It never had been. As he walked home one cold evening, the city around him buzzed with life. Neon signs flashed advertisements for expensive products he could never afford. Cars sped by, their horns blaring impatiently. People rushed past him, their faces tired and expressionless. It was a city of millions, yet he felt completely alone. The streetlights above cast long shadows, and the wind bit at his skin, making him shiver. John sighed and entered a small park near his apartment. It was one of the few places in the city where he could sit and think. He dropped onto a cold metal bench and looked up at the sky. The stars were faint, barely visible against the glow of artificial lights. He closed his eyes for a moment and whispered to himself, "There must be a better way." "That's an interesting thought," a voice said behind him. John's eyes snapped open, and he turned around. A man stood there, smiling at him. He was tall, well-dressed, and looked strangely out of place in this part of the city. His clothes were clean and elegant, and his eyes sparkled under the streetlights. There was something almost otherworldly about him. "Who are you?" John asked, shifting uncomfortably on the bench. The man sat down beside him. "Just a traveler," he replied. John frowned. "A traveler? From where?" The man's smile widened. "From the future." John let out a short laugh. "Right, and I suppose you came here in a time machine?" The man shook his head. "Not exactly." John sighed. He didn't have the energy for this. He had met plenty of strange people in the city, street preachers, conspiracy theorists, and drunks, but something about this man was different. He didn't seem crazy. He didn't seem lost. He seemed sure of himself. "All right," John said, humoring him. "Tell me, what's life like in the future?" The man leaned back on the bench and looked at the sky. "It's different," he said. "People work very little. Machines handle the hard labor, and we have time for art, for travel, for each other. There's no poverty, no hunger, no homelessness." John snorted. "Sounds like a fairy tale." "It's real," the man insisted. "Technology changed everything. We cured diseases, eliminated pollution, and built a society where everyone has what they need. Governments no longer serve the wealthy. They serve everyone. There's no crime, no war, no suffering." John studied the man's face. He wasn't joking. He truly believed what he was saying. "And who controls this perfect world?" John asked skeptically. "There's always someone in control." The man's expression remained calm. "We do," he said. "There are no kings, no billionaires, no dictators. We make decisions together." John shook his head. "People don't just wake up and decide to be better. There had to be a revolution." The man nodded. "There was. But it wasn't like the ones in your history books. It wasn't fought with weapons. It was fought with knowledge. People realized they didn't have to live like this. They stopped accepting inequality as normal. They demanded change, and they got it." John ran a hand through his hair. "I wish I could see it." The man turned to him with a curious expression. "Why do you think I'm here?" John's heart pounded. "You mean I can go there?" The man didn't answer immediately. Instead, he studied John's face as if deciding something. Finally, he said, "Do you really want to know?" John leaned forward. "Yes! Tell me. What's the technology? A machine? A portal?" The man stood up. "There is no such technology." John froze. "What?" The man smiled sadly. "There is no time machine, no secret invention. I didn't come here with a device." John's mind raced. "Then how?" The man turned and began walking away. "Wait!" John shouted, jumping to his feet. "Who are you? How did you get here? Are you lying?" The man stopped and looked over his shoulder. "Maybe I was never here." And then, just like that, he disappeared into the night. John stood still, his breath visible in the cold air. Had he really spoken to someone, or had exhaustion and stress made him imagine the whole thing? He sat back down, rubbing his temples. The city remained unchanged. bright lights, noisy streets, indifferent people. But something inside him felt different. Maybe the future he had heard about was real. Maybe such a world was possible. Or maybe he was just a tired man, dreaming of something better. He didn't know, and maybe he never would. John walked home slowly, his mind racing. When he reached his tiny apartment, he felt the familiar weight of his daily struggles pressing down on him. The cracked walls, the flickering light bulb, the stack of unpaid bills on the table, all reminders of a life that felt inescapable. He lay on his bed, staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. The traveler's words echoed in his mind. What if it is real? What if I could help build that future? For the first time in years, John felt something stir within him. It wasn't just frustration. It wasn't just exhaustion. It was something he had long forgotten. Hope. He closed his eyes, and for the first time in a long time, he dreamed. Not of the life he had, but of the life that could be.